service. Um, Again, my name is Ann Hilbin Benoit. I'm with Mississippi State University's Extension Service. And today we will be going over a brief introduction to exercises. And then we will follow that up. Dr. Martin from Pennsylvania State University will be giving you a brief overview of what we're going to cover at the conference this year. So with that being said, I will go ahead and kick things off with our basic introduction to tabletop exercises and get us going. So before we even get started, let's talk about some of the benefits of exercises. Obviously these things are designed to test your plan. It incorporates teamwork into the overall experience of the exercise. So you're getting used to working with others and everything like that. And you can see it. I don't know if you all can hear this, but we're having a drill on campus right now, testing our tornado sirens or warning sirens, if you will. That too is an exercise. Also, it's better to exchange the business cards before something happens. A disaster, an emergency happens. You want to know each other beforehand if you can. It just makes things easier. Um, Also, you gain clarity of everyone's capabilities in an exercise. You know who can do what, who has the expertise. Um, all of those things, it really comes to life in an exercise. It's not just written down on a piece of paper. You get to see it work. And you get to see it work and how the incident command system functions. And that's key. And the thing to remember about the incident command system is that it is flexible in nature, so it can change with the disaster based upon the needs and the objectives that are set. So that's a key thing to remember. So an overview of what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about the different types of exercises. Obviously today we're going to focus on tabletop exercise, but we're going to talk about the different types as well. How you develop them, the documents, how to prepare for an exercise, and how we evaluate the exercise. So these are the things that we're going to cover today. So your basic types of exercise, the operations-based exercise, and this is just for awareness level. You can have a drill, which is what we're having right now with our tornado sirens, if you can hear them. Think about a fire drill. Those are things that I think pretty much everybody's familiar with. You can have a functional exercise, and it goes all the way up to a full-scale exercise, where you bring all the fire trucks, the law enforcement officer vehicles, the ambulances, all the toys out. And that would be PPE in particular, potentially with agriculture. You would test skills based on donning and doffing your PPE. So, I mean, it could be a little bit of everything with the operations based. However, with discussion based exercises, there are 4 that are included. This includes seminars, workshops, and I think we're all familiar with workshops and extension. Tabletop exercises, which will be the primary focus for today. And of course, games. I'm sure a lot of you know Andrea Higdon from Kentucky. She created the games or the ladder series. If you were at the conference a while back, you may have chosen to experience that. And that's a great example of using games as an exercise. Operations-based exercise documents, these will be the documents that you see in a full-scale exercise. You would have an exercise plan. a player handout, which would give you some basic guidance as to how you're supposed to play throughout the exercise. And then you have what's called a master scenario events list, or as many of us in the design field like to call it, a measle. Then of course there's also the controller evaluator handbook. And this is key from an extension perspective. You may be asked to evaluate an exercise, particularly if another agency is involved, because they want someone from outside to help evaluate usually. I can't tell you how many exercises I've evaluated. So, what is a tabletop exercise? This type of exercise is discussion based, and it's done in an informal basis. It offers a chance to learn in an environment where answers are provided are not wrong, but allow for growth. So that's what we mean when we say it's a no fault exercise. This is where you want to make mistakes. We'd much rather figure out there's something that needs to be changed with our plan in an exercise, than actually during an actual incident. That would be preferable to learn in the actual exercise environment. The purpose is to challenge assumptions about planning so that the participants can improve their actions, and improve their plans, gain new knowledge, learn their role and responsibilities. This one's huge, especially if you're just getting involved with an organization. It helps you learn how to actually implement what's down on paper. Test capabilities, improve communications. This one's huge. I know many of you have participated in exercises in the past, but a lot of the time communications is always a point of failure in some aspect. It's either going to be technology based, it's going to be radio based, it could be email based, phone lines. Communications are always a point of failure. Sometimes things are simply just misunderstood. So that's why it's so important that we speak in plain language and clearly, during it, after following a disaster and during our exercises. And also, of course, this helps you consider challenges in a new way. So that's really our purpose with the tabletop exercise. And I want anyone new to understand that's what we're trying to do within the tabletop exercise. So exercise development. There are a lot of planning meetings that take place before the actual exercise, before anyone gets to participate in it. And this is done so that we get the appropriate documents in place to make the exercise flow well. You have subject matter experts that pile in information into these documents to make the exercise come alive and to make it real world so that it's realistic. We spend a lot of time on that. Also, the information details, this is huge in your exercise development. So some documents of a tabletop exercise. And I put SITMAN up here. SITMAN stands for Situation Manual. Just simply ran out of room up here. So we always have a situation manual, and within that situation manual, you'll have a schedule of events, how long we think our basic agenda, how long we think it's going to take to do it, the purpose and the scope, the design objectives, what are we trying to achieve, the structure of the exercise. This would be how many modules there'd be in the exercise. So how many sections. Any instructions for exercise conduct. Also, the roles and responsibilities. With a tabletop exercise, that's typically where you would identify that we might have table captains, for instance, things of that nature. So you would know who the leaders are going to be around you and who can help you. Also, assumptions and artificialities. We do a very good job of identifying the assumptions before we actually do the exercise. We're going to assume that we're in a certain location. Artificialities, well, not all places are the same. So think about rural versus urban. And this is one of the places I like to remind everyone, just because it doesn't, try to make it make sense for you. Don't fight the exercise, and try to get what you can out of it, to help you grow and to help you learn. We also talk about the rules for the exercise, and we give you scenarios. So it's scenario based. We also have participant questions and reference appendices. What there will be reference material within most exercises that are tabletop exercises. So some basic things to do to prepare for a tabletop exercise. And it doesn't matter if you're going to a tabletop exercise at the county level or at the state level or on a national scale. Things you want to do are you want to be familiar with all of your plans for your locality, your comprehensive emergency management plan. So basically your county's plan or your township or your city that you're written into and you're a part of. Hazard mitigation plans, these are huge. You want to know the hazards for the location um, that is in question. Also, and probably most importantly, are your internal response and recovery plans for your organization. This one is very big, understanding how what your standard operating guidelines or standard operating procedures might be. We all have them, and we want to make sure we understand them. So you want to review those things before you even start the tabletop exercise. Understand your internal organizational structure. This one's huge. There are a lot of things that change all the time. We all adapt and evolve. Also, your emergency management training. This one is huge. Make sure you have taken ICS 100, 200, and 700. This is critical. Just have a basic foundational knowledge of how an exercise and how ICS works, because we do use that in exercises. You want that foundational knowledge. Pursue professional development training for improving foundational skills that can improve knowledge. And the Professional Development Committee of Eden does a very good job of providing webinars on a monthly basis that can help you improve your knowledge. Look outside of that. I do all the time. The Weather Service, they offer great webinars if you're involved with them. Anything that your state emergency management or local emergency management is offering, I encourage you to develop your skills further. It could be within agriculture. It could be APHIS. I've been to APHIS trainings. So you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of these things as your schedule allows, because it's only going to help improve your skills base. and participate in exercise to improve your skills. Make sure you're participating in them. I cannot stress this enough. Within your county or parish or municipality, make or state government or with the federal government. I've done those as well. Make sure you're participating in those because that helps build your relationships. And I think if there's one thing we can all agree on, developing our relationships and maintaining them is a cornerstone of emergency management. Emergency management is relationships. So it's important that we develop those, and exercises are just another way of doing that. So the structure of a tabletop exercise, you're going to have objectives and core capabilities, details of the threats and hazards, contains 3 discussion-based modules, typically, however, this can vary based on time constraints. It can vary in length of time to complete. So I did one a couple weeks ago that was an hour. You can do them 3 hours. You can do them all day. So that'll be clearly defined for you. And they're flexible. That's a key thing to remember with an exercise. They can be flexible, not just with time, but with design. We usually have a hot wash with our tabletop exercise. So typically what that entails is you're going to give me 3 strengths and 3 areas of improvement at the end of the exercise. It's meant to go quick and to get you in and out of there. And then after the fact, we conduct an after action review, or an AAR to learn how we can improve and do better next time. So the hot wash, again, with the strengths and the areas of improvement, we're looking for 3 that a minimum. What are our 3 best strengths? What worked best in the exercise from the extension perspective? Areas of improvement. We want 3, essentially what areas can be improved upon in your agency's plan, what lessons were learned in the exercise that could be utilized in your agency. You may pick up something from someone else that they're doing that you didn't know existed, and you can take back home and use to improve your own plan. So this is really offers an opportunity for all of us to grow together, so that we can strengthen all of our organizations as a whole. So the after action reporting, typically you have an after action conference. This involves key personnel and exercise planning, are presented with findings and recommendations from the draft AAR. And essentially, this is another evaluation tool for all of us. In Extension, we're very familiar with those. Corrective actions are in addressing the draft AAR or the improvement plan. The after action review and improvement plan with the recommendations and corrective actions derived from the discussion at the after action conference. So it's a step-by-step process that goes on in the actual AAR. Does anyone have any questions about that? Stop sharing my screen now. Let me check the chat. I'm sorry, I couldn't check the chat as I was going. So Disasters and emergencies aren't the time to hand out business cards. That's very correct. You want to
I've
have,
been following up behind you, Ann, on some of these
okay,
answers, and Tommy's been contributing as well.
fantastic. Do we have any questions down here?
So just to give you some background, I work at the county level as a emergency support function in agriculture so that when we train, and I train on emergency management issues surrounding nuclear power plants, because we have 3 Mile Island in my backyard, we handle all kinds of questions regarding agricultural issues surrounding nuclear events and fallout. So those are primarily that type of exercise that we've done. It's very structured and it's connected to both state as well as federal agencies in the room with county commissioners. So it could be as involved as that, all the way down to some of my other work that I do as a subject matter expert on a task force for the state as a mortality composting expert. So when we handle death loss from a foreign animal disease, we take care of the disposal aspects of that. So it just depends on the plan that your state or your local or even on a national basis that you may be associated with. I hope you're agreeing with me, Tommy. I can't see you move your head there, so. Yeah, there you go. I like a thumbs up every now and then. Yes, sir. He is alive.
He is alive.
He is alive.
Hey, Ann, this is Connie. Could I make just a
Yes,
comment about
absolutely.
exercises can start and stop wherever you want them to be. They don't always have to start at the very beginning. A matter of fact, too many times that's where we always start and then we never get to the issues that are coming along further down the line, even recovery exercises. So, you know, so I'm just saying that if you're in an environment where you can offer some suggestions, you might say, hey, have we ever talked about this part or this area or whatever? And try to get them to do more than just the let's start from the, when the bell rings and going forward, because there is never enough time when you do that to get to all of the other important things that come along down the hill, down the road. So anyway, it's something that I learned a long time ago when I was doing work for the State Emergency Management Agency myself. And so it works out well, I think, if you can do that occasionally.
Yeah, the entire incident command may not stand up too. It might be just
Right.
portions of them for whatever tasks they need to accomplish. So during COVID, for example, we had all the schools shut down. And so here's all this food at all these schools that was going to go to waste. And so our extension group helped organize food giveaways to those that needed food during COVID. And there was a lot. There was a cavalcade of folks that went through the parking lot at the schools as they were handing out food. Especially milk in small cartons that nobody else, they couldn't use them at the stores, but others could at home. So they were giving away milk, they were giving away cheese, they were giving away other things that they could give away rather than throwing it away. So I thought it was a good resource where our 4-Hers and their leaders were able to help coordinate that effort. So it doesn't have to be a big expansive things. It could be little things, little like what we call strike teams, little strike teams that go out and do things for a specific task.
So I noticed, and I've been chatting in the chat with Joanna, and she said examples or resources are helpful on how this coordination takes place between Extension. My response to her is, and Mississippi Extension is written into county and state comprehensive emergency management plans, as Greg, I know you are as well. And this is how we're so tied in this state. And we have strike teams as well, that we use for animal emergencies as well. We have agriculture, damage assessment teams, and then we also have agriculture work relief teams where they may come in and rebuild fence. The farmer has the fence, but Extension brings in the people to come in and rebuild the fence. So that's just an example. We can do a lot of different things, and it's just based on the need in each state. And that's why I said from the beginning, it depends on your location and what your needs are. We're written into our radiological plan, like Greg was talking about earlier, to provide support for animals. Our 1890 institution is basically in charge for helping with sheltering the people. So that's how we kind of partner together to do these things. So that I hope that provides you with a good bit of oversight there, Joanna. If you have any other questions or would ever like to reach out, feel free to do so with myself or Greg. We'd be happy to talk to you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Yeah, and if you're new to Extension, this is a foreign language course in its best, and so it's important to note that you almost need to mentor with someone who is working there. As we get new educators, for example, in my office, I always pull them to the side and say, okay, you may get called and in the middle of the night to do this. And so let's go over what the procedures are and what you need to know so that you can adequately handle some of these calls.
Thomas?
Tommy has his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I think a lot of times we think about like the technical and subject matter expertise that we might bring as scientists and science-based educators. But a lot of us have administrative duties either at the state or county level, and a lot of that administrative and business type experience can be valuable in the disaster in incident command. You know, one example we go to a lot is 4-H leaders, agents, leaders, and such, you know, are good volunteer managers based on how they run their clubs and everything. So volunteer management is an important function during a disaster. So it's not so much in one's description as their technical expertise, but it is a functional expertise that they've developed through the course of their normal duties. And then other things that just pop up. Greg had a great COVID example. Trying to remember exactly where it was. There were some extension-based food safety experts that worked with local and county sanitarians regarding how restaurants during that time that had bulk commodities they couldn't use could be repackaged and sold retail. A lot of it in my county was just for fun because everybody wanted to bake bread, and the Italian restaurants in town had a bunch of bulk flour they were no longer using. And so they were repackaging in smaller household quantities and making it available for sale. But, you know, maintaining food safety throughout the response is really important. And so there's a huge, you know, extension opportunity there to contribute.
And we
Uh,
handle rumor control and questions during the response because, especially with flooding, for example, our family consumer scientists are always there fielding questions about, gee, that soup can that's floating in my basement, can I eat that? And of course, the answer is, and say it with me, folks, when in doubt, throw it out, right? So, but we do get those questions. You know, they've got all these canned peaches and stuff in glass jars, and the basement's just up to here, and you don't know what's in that water. So it's rough sometimes.
I mean, we've even gotten questions if the baseball field is safe to play on after a flood, due to flood waters had completely saturated it. And we went out, took soil samples, all of those things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we get those kind of questions. We get anything under the sun. It really just it really depends on the location where you are and your clientele as to what questions might come back to you, and you got to be ready for anything. And I think that's one of the great things about Eden. We have so many resources between all of the extension services that if you don't have it in your state, a quick email through the response notes or response notes, excuse me, will get you more than you ever asked for on a publication on a very niche um, subject matter that you never thought you would ever need. I watched this happen with flooding in, oh, where was Ashley before she was with USDA? Nebraska. Yeah, Nebraska. She reached out and I think we loaded her up with so many publications. And she was able to use those and able to help her citizens. Just because that there was a need there and and we were able to fill it. So that's really the beauty of the Extension Disaster Education Network. When it comes down to it, we all reach out and help each other. Sometimes it's with information, sometimes it's with people and resources. Whether it be Texas's group that went to North Carolina after Helene, their search and rescue team, or I mean, it can be anything. Or Purdue coming and helping Mississippi and giving us the satellite towers after Katrina, so that we had the ability to communicate on the coast. These things truly do matter, and this all ties back to an exercise being a place where we can figure out how we can help each other, based off a certain scenario. Do we have any other questions?
So it's a combined knowledge base. If you think about it, all of these experiences, you know, you may be in North Dakota, you don't have oceans on either side of you, but there are some in Mississippi, but can talk about flooding in generalities that here are some of the things. When I was thinking about when Ann was talking about the athletic fields, I was thinking about foreign materials left behind on the field that you need to walk. We call it FOD in the services, foreign object disposal, and you're looking for materials that might be left there, glass, plastics, other things. There could be tires, there could be dead fish on the field, and then you're going to have to, you know, clean that up so that it would be safe. You might even have the fire department come in and spray off the field with water, with clear water, just to clear the field of any debris. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff there that you could tap into if you needed to. You don't feel like you're alone.
And I do want to point out that we do have a survey in the chat box now. If you all would please take the time to fill this out. It's addressed to everyone from Eden. Um, and you don't have to do it right now because there's plenty of time for us to continue talking. And I know Greg, I think Greg wanted to have a little bit small amount of time,
Just a tiny bit
a
amount,
tiny bit of
a
time
tiny bit amount for a
um,
crass commercial announcement. Yes.
to prepare everyone for the exercise that is planned at the annual meeting. But please, if you would, that link is in the chat. Take some time and fill that out for us. So Greg, would you like to share?
And give me the powers.
Yeah, how do I don't Ruth, can you give the powers, please?
I think you should have the powers, Greg.
Do I have the powers? Okay,
You
I will
have
take the
the
wand then, the orb, and move forward then and see where we are. Here we are. Let's share that. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Hopefully it'll be a lion. There we go. So very quickly, I want to give you just a short overview of what's going to be happening next, not this Friday, but next Friday, on our tabletop. And so we're going to talk a little bit about fire and how we respond to it and what we could do to help support activities surrounding this. This particular picture here is the panhandle of Texas. You know, you don't necessarily have to have mountains to have an issue. This is flatlands just burning up. And you would think that, gee, is there enough grass in Texas to burn like that? And the answer is yes. It can burn very hot very quickly. And luckily, there was a road there to act as a fire break. But here's another example. This is Maui. And as you can see here on, let's see here. Yeah, as you can see here, there's vast destruction, and yet look at the road. The road is perfect here. It's amazing how fast a fire can move through, destroy everything, and yet it leaves other things here. There might be trees here that are fine, but it just went through and wiped out everything else. Total desolation. And then lastly, and the one that probably hit the news the most because it happened in Hollywood, you know, in the Hollywood area, this is Malibu, the Palisades fire, that we had multi-million-dollar homes right on the ocean burnt to the ground. There were some of these houses that survived only because they had employed their own fire abatement equipment built into the buildings. And one movie star, I'm not going to mention her name, actually had a private fire department come down from inside the Valley of California and stationed themselves outside of her house. So her house was never touched. So money has power, and she was thinking ahead. It could have been really, really bad. As you can see here, there's not much left. All of this is still in ruins, and it's going to take them literally years in order to rebuild if they're going to be allowed to rebuild there. And as you can see, even here in Southern California, topography does play a part in this. But you can see here, here's all the fire destroyed it, and there's perfectly standing palm trees, which if you give them a match, those things go up like crazy. So it's amazing how quickly that fire went through. So based on all this, my title for the exercise is running with your hair on fire. And to make it work, you guys will remember that, running with your hair on fire, because at times you're feeling that you're behind the 8 ball, you're behind the truck, you're trying to catch up with the incident. And my thinking is you need to just step back, take a breath, and deal with the things that you have in front of you as best you can. You're never going to be 100%, but by God, 90% effort is better than 0% effort. I think that is the key thing to remember. The other thing is that you're not working in a vacuum, that you can always call for help. You are not going to be the expert for everything. And when I deploy, in fact, we're deployed right now for foreign animal disease here in Pennsylvania. We always have this mantra, we stay in our lanes. We're here for a task. We need to stay in our lane and handle the task before us. Yes, we know something about everything else that's happening on the farms, but we are called to do just this. So a lot of times after I'm done and my official duties are done, I'll show the farmer, I'll take my hat off and say, I'm taking my hat off as SME. I'm putting my extension hat back on, and here we go. This is your lesson, which is usually a hard lesson, but they need to learn about something that helped mitigate what they're doing. So why are we doing this? Why are we exercising on this? Because we've had a lot of history recently on this. We could have we had flooding last year, and so we are going to pick up fire because it's one of the commonalities that we see across the United States. And so we're going to review within your area what's possible that you could do to help support activities for emergency management. we're going to think about what are the possible mitigations to fire that you could help develop as a part of your extension program to remind folks that they should be looking around their property, they should be mitigating to where if there's going to be a major fire, if they can help mitigate and harden their properties and their areas against fire. And then review possible recovery efforts. Certain states actually have this written into their um, incident action plans, but others can also help with recovery efforts, just as I outlined with our COVID response efforts that we did. And then lastly, to think more about incident command structure and functions within the trainings, as well as how you would fit in within the emergency management hierarchy. So just to give you a quick review, and I don't want to bore those that have this actually tattooed on the backside of their hand. They know this like the back of their hands. But this is kind of the overall structure of most incident command structures that we see when they are deploying. That you usually have somebody in charge. He has a series of liaisons that help him or her deal with the incident. So you usually, if you think about it, go back through YouTube and look at the the Palisade fires and their press releases that they've done with the press, and it was always the same person talking. It was amazing, and they stuck on point. They only gave out pertinent information. If they didn't know the answer, they said, "We don't know. We will look into that later," and kept on going. The liaison officer works with all the different agencies that may come and go. Safety officer is important because sometimes responders work themselves into a corner and they get themselves hurt. And so it's important to do that. When we think about foreign animal diseases, I have to be very, very careful about exposing myself to a disease agent. And so I actually have oversight from the Department of Health, who checks in with me every day to make sure that I'm feeling okay. I actually have a little form I have to fill out. And if I don't fill it out, I get a phone call saying, "Hey, are you okay today? Are you feeling like you got the flu?" No. So we're good. And then lastly, there's the staff functions. And so I work when I'm deploying in foreign animal diseases, I'm under the operations section. There's a planning section, a logistics section, helping to get materials and other things into the system to help. And then there's a finance section there because somebody has to pay for all this. And when I'm sitting at county emergency command, there's actually our county commissioners who have the financial authority to spend money to help fight whatever issue we're fighting, whether it's floods, fires, what have you. Civil unrest will be another one, would be a disaster too. So hopefully, if you don't see any familiarity with this, this is why you may want to consider reviewing a little bit about ICS, Incident Command Structure, so that you will understand a little bit about the vernacular we're talking about. I will have a glossary in the back of our handouts to help you with some of the terms, because as you start getting involved in this, the language starts coming out. So you talked about, the IC, the PIOs and other things, and you just, after a while, you learn the language. So what to expect and how to prepare. I want you to come with an open mind and be able to contribute to the discussion. Everybody has value that is going to be there, and I want to hear things from different perspectives because some folks have different training, and I love to hear the different perspectives as to how they would approach helping in these situations. I want you to think about and review what have you done in your area, or what have you seen done in your area, in your state, in your localities surrounding wildfires, or at least large scale fires, and how were those things handled? And then lastly, review your incident command structure 100 so that at least you know the language and the structure of most systems that we are using to deploy. Because we're going to separate the two things. One of the things is we think about is training. If you think about, let me think of, okay, I'm a gymnast. Okay. I'm a gymnast. Okay. And I'm going to learn the balance beam. Okay. I just don't hop up there and start spinning around. No, we train. We train to know how to get up on the, first of all, to get up on the beam safely without killing yourself, and then learning the tricks as you go. Then we exercise. We take what we've learned and now we practice and practice and practice. Firefighters practice and practice all the time so that when they roll up on the fire, they know exactly which hose that connects to the hydrant because they practice. That's the exercise part. That's why we learn ICS as a training. We exercise that training in an exercise. Okay. And that's what Ann was trying to talk about earlier. So we need to think about also being open to innovation. So the pictures you've seen of firefighters that break the windows of a car that's sitting in front of a fire hydrant, that's innovation, right? And being open to perspectives, how we each have a different perspective of how we handle things. How we treat our tribal groups and our plain sect is going to be a little bit different from our normal, not normal, but our other folks from other walks of life, because they also have different perspectives. When we think about tribal groups, we think of them as the people. With the Amish, it's the church, it's the local folks, that group that have a kind of a local perspective and local governance. And understanding and appreciating that and working through that will actually be to your favor in an incident. It's amazing to think about this, but we've had fires on farms, and within 3 days, the barns were rebuilt because the Plains Sec came in with materials, with food to feed the workers, and rebuilt the farm in 3 days. So it can be that quick. And then knowing where you can help. And I think that is the biggest thing. And having those discussions before we have disasters is the important part. So you need to be out there, you need to work with your local governance and your state level governance as well, so that folks know who you are and what you can do and how you can help. I think that's important. So I do meet with our state level as well as our local level responders frequently. And then the important thing is, and Ann pointed to this as well, is learning how to communicate during dark sky conditions. So when we have clear sky, when nothing's happening, the fire truck's in the bay, it's been washed, somebody's sitting there polishing it with a rag, they have nothing else to do. That's the blue sky, right? So the dark sky, or what I call red sky efforts, is everybody's deployed, everybody's moving, and now we're full tilt. Having things done while we're under blue sky is always an advantage to people. This is where you learn new things, you get out and you talk with others. I've met with firefighters, for example, about how do we respond during high path AI. I tell them, here's what you need to know. What's your first duty as a strike team is to put out the fire. We will decontaminate you when you come back out. And so they felt a whole lot better knowing that, because we've had the discussion before we even had an issue. So those are some of the things we're talking about. With that, that is my overview. Is there any questions that I can answer for you folks at this point in time? There'll be 3 modules there. We're going to New Mexico virtually. I'm not picking on Texas anymore. Monty's heard enough about fires in Texas. Okay. Is there anything in the chat?
If you all would please remember to fill out the evaluation now that we have completed today's webinar, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Greg. We will be happy to help you in any way that we're able to do so.
Yes, and I see here regarding the Palisade fires, the folks not everybody had equal response coverage. And that was a problem, and I think that was highlighted by the press during that time. Yes, there was discussions about empty hydrants, for example. In Southern California, which my wife is from, Southern California, what we've been pushing forward as far as county level building code is to have water supplies in tanks on the site. And so there's like 5,000 gallon tanks spotting around different places with where my wife was living, just for fire suppression, with the hookups and everything for the fire trucks. But in a wildfire, a polyethylene tank will burn too. So even if it's full of water, so we have to be careful with that, and you have to harden your areas to make it work. Do they have it in downtown Altadena? Probably not. They were depending on their fire hydrants. Okay.
All right. Well,
Back to you, Ann.
well, thank you all so much for joining us today. And Connie, thank you for guiding us to develop this webinar for today for our Eden colleagues across the country. We can't thank you enough for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And please don't forget about that survey in the chat. We
So here's
appreciate it so much.
one more crass commercial announcement, okay? Eden's power is based upon involvement, and I encourage all of you to consider involving yourself a little bit deeper by joining one of the committees. There are 5 or 6 committees. Professional development is just one of those. There's an agricultural committee. There is community development committee, and so forth. So if you're coming to the annual meeting, there is going to be, I think, a small meeting time for you to talk to the different chairs of these committees and get involved. So it doesn't require a lot of time. We mostly meet once a month. And so for an hour at a time, so an hour a month, that's only 12 hours a year. I think you'll get a lot out of your participation there. I know certainly I will if you participate. So hook up with a committee and learn more about it. Look at that. Our president, she's on the ball. There you
That's
go.
what I'm talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
That is awesome.
She is prepared. She
Yeah.
is prepared. This is sitting on her desktop. I know it is. It's not just pictures of palm trees. No, it's
Yes.
not just Mickey Mouse.
Thank you,
No.
Angie.
Madam President, you did well.
Pictures of hurricanes? No.
Yeah. So get involved. That's important. All right, I'm done talking.
Well, thank you all again so much, and I hope you get involved with us. As you can see, we're all part of this great big family, and we work as a team to make these things happen. So please, I encourage all of you to get involved and work with us. We'd love to have you aboard, and I hope to see you in the future and get to meet you in person. With that being said, thank you so again, and Connie, do you have any parting words of wisdom before we close out the meeting?
I think what the November webinar will probably be on the 18th, because the 11th is Veterans Day, and my university is closed and there's several other ones, but we'll be getting out the information and letting you know for sure, because we're trying to secure our speaker for that. So it would have either be the 4th or the 18th, and I think it's going to be the 18th, but we'll get that out pretty soon so that people know. Thank you all for joining. We appreciate all your assistance and help, and it was a great crowd today. So anyway, I hope you learned a lot, because these webinars are meant to do that. So thanks.